That's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to do this. All right, let's see. Who we got in the chat today? We've got Wendy Hickson and Joe's, Emily, Aqua Waifu, Ashley Nebel, Mark Holder, Spodas and Podas, Shio, Frank the Tank, Sandy Sizemore. Excellent. Okay, great. I thought I would just start a tiny bit early because I know some of you are waiting up and it's late for you and whatnot, and why not start just a little bit early? We had several people waiting already, so I figured I would. This is my friend Prairie Dawn, one of my plains garters that was produced by Dawn's Garter Snake. She is a female I've had for not quite a year now. She's growing. She's not nearly as big as Ruby yet, but she's putting on some size. I love her beautiful yellow stripe and her checkers. She's not a checkered garter snake, but they do look rather checker-like, don't they? I see theropod hunters here as well. Excellent. Ian Alicia, Mr. and Mrs. Morelia, the Fish Channel, Random Tea, Candles here. Excellent. Yeah, Thamnophis radix is the scientific name of these. That's what Kendall's referring to. And they're a fantastic garter. Very different in personality, I've found, from my red-sideds. But she was not terribly tame for a while, but I have been working with her and she's a lot better than she used to be that way. And there's Squidiot. Love that name, by the way. This is the same lighting I usually use when I film in this area, so I'm not sure what's going on. If it's the time and so that we're not worried about buffering so much, I don't know. There's Warren, welcome. I thought I'd show off a few garters to start with. And so here is Prairie Dawn. Now I'm going to put her back. Be right back. Oh, Sandy has a question. What's the differences between red-sided and this one? Well, a couple differences. Taxonomically, same genus, Thamnophis, but the species, this one's Radix, and red-sideds, the red-sideds I have are Thamnophis sertalis parietalis. So completely different species. Some differences in appearance. Here we have like the checkered pattern rather than just either the red or the plain kind of dark black or sort of color that the red-sided does. Maybe I'll just take them both out at the same time. You can compare them. So let's take a look. Here's Ruby, who's of course a lot bigger, but you can see the color differences pretty apparent. And of course that varies from locality to locality and individual to individual. You can see Ruby is not a particularly red individual. You can see a little bit of red on her scales, but not nearly as much as some individuals. Like my males have more than she does. But that's not necessarily a sexual dichromatism. It's just a thing. Individuals vary, but you can see some of her red between her scales especially. So that's one of the differences. You look on Ruby's upper labial scales, the scales right above her lips, if I can get her to stay still, they're pretty plain. There's little dark markings between them, but there's not markings on those scales. If you look at a Thamnophis redex, you'll see that they have very thick, defined dark markings on those scales. So that kind of helps, I think, differentiate them. Hopefully that gives you an idea, Sandy, of some of the differences between the two. Personality-wise, I find that parietalis can be very, very laid back, and maybe radix takes a little more work, so far, at least in my experience. That may not be true for all individuals, but in general, I've read that red-sideds, parietalis, tend to be pretty laid back. Both of them are pretty fantastic snakes. So, okay, Kendall's asking if she has any hets. This one should not have any hets at all. Just a wild type. I am thinking of getting an albino in the future. I do have a male wild type like this. Thinking of getting albino, either male or female, and then I have some options. Because the albinos in The plains are fantastic. I've also thought about getting some red plains or maybe an axanthic, because they are all fantastic. Oh, holy cow, Ruby. She's going to knock down everything on the shelves over here. I'm going to put Ruby away now and put Prairie Dawn away. And yeah, I know, Ruby. There you go. They're going a little nuts. And I'm going to show you some other snakes as we chat. So let's pull up the top chat again. "503, glad you're here. Mantis God, you too." Oh yeah, both species have pretty bold stripes. I think the contrast is maximized on the red side. It's just because that's mostly what they got going on beside the little reds. And Kevin, good point. A lot of the northern red-sideds don't have nearly as much red. Some of them don't have any. Okay, now, next snake up today. Here, my Melanistic. These are Thamnophis sertalis. So same species, different subspecies from red-sideds. But these are both sort of a morph and sort of a locality, because in this particular species and subspecies, there are a lot of black individuals in the wild. But that trait breeds true and has been selected for, and people work with it a lot to try to intensify the black and remove all other colors. And on these, the Odd Noir, the one who bred these, did an excellent job of that. There's very, very little pigmentation other than black. You don't see anything unless you look right under the chin. You can see a little bit. The bellies are black. Hard to see unless they'll let me show the bellies, but the bellies are black. It's just under the chin. We may or may not get a glimpse of it. That is just a little white patch, and that's it. And these have been doing pretty well for me. Got them about a month ago, and it took a while to get a couple of them eating well. 2 of them started eating right away. 2 of them had some complications with eating. They got a little picky because of the shipping. They were already eating well before that, but they just decided, oh, we've been stressed by shipping, now we're not going to eat a lot. And so I had to go resort to live endlers for a little while. But now they're both eating earthworm pieces and chopped pinkies mixed with earthworm pieces. So they're doing well. Stefano Reina Julia in the post there, Pod Hunter. Now, I'm not sure, listening to that scientific name, I'm not sure I know what that is. So you have to tell me that. Yeah, so these Easterns, I don't know if I said the common name, which is Easterns. These are Melanistic Easterns. Possibly my favorite garter type of all. It's hard to pick because I really love my red-sideds. I really love Infernalis, the California red-sided, Sertalis Infernalis. I would say Sertalis has got to be my favorite species because it includes these guys. It includes my red-sideds and it includes California red-sided. So it's probably my favorite species of garter. But it's hard to pick, and there's so many that I would love to have. Like Lake Chapala's amazing. They get so big. Victor's here. Oh, cool. Ian and Alicia watched my videos with Peter in the Sky Islands. Sky Island Adventures video. Awesome. Hopefully you've seen his videos of the same trip. He took some videos of me as well and incorporated those into some of the videos on his channel. So it's really a series of about 6 videos. I think I did 3 and he did 3 or something like that. So that was the second of the Easterns. Here's the third Eastern. I might do the third and the fourth together because they're actually tangled up, so I might as well. These are the 2 that are not eating as much. They're a little smaller. But there we go. Yeah, I'm hoping to get out to the Sky Islands again, do a Sky Island adventure next summer. Wasn't able to make it this summer, unfortunately, due to some other expenses and whatnot, but I'm saving up to get out there. So Miles, welcome. So Thamnophis elegans is definitely not on the relaxed side, not defensive, but needs a bit of work. Okay, good to know. We have Thamnophis elegans vagans, I think, the western wandering garter, and that one is not. Those are the ones we usually see around here. We also have valleys, and we have Cryptophis, I think, in some southeastern parts of the state, but I don't usually see them. Mr. and Mrs. Merrily say, would you say garters in general are your favorite snakes? What other snakes have you kept? What other snakes would you like to keep? Ooh, great super chat. Thank you so much, and great questions. Okay, well, I haven't kept that many snakes, to be honest. I've worked with some that I haven't kept, like Eastern Indigo and, let's see, trying to think, gray-banded kings, ball pythons, boa constrictors, rosy boas, what else? I'm trying to remember what all I've worked with. But as far as keeping myself and owning, I've only had garters and a corn snake, and we still have the corn snake. Only been into snakes, keeping them for about 4 years. I've been wanting to keep them for a lot longer. And like I said, I worked with those others when I worked at the zoo and enjoyed them a lot. These snakes are going to hide, so I guess I need to show you something else, huh? But so far, I love corn snakes and I love garter snakes, but obviously I'm getting into breeding garter snakes and getting into more varieties, so I guess from that metric, I guess I prefer garters, but I really like corn snakes too. Let me put these away and I'll answer some of those other questions. Notice I didn't have water in their water dish because I'm going to have to move it and get it everywhere, but I'm going to put some more water in there. Let me just put this away and I'll tell you about some of my other favorite snakes that I'd like to keep. As I grab some critters to show you. What can I show you while I talk about those? 1 second. I figured I haven't done these in a while. We can check these out, see how they're doing. These are my Porcelionides whiteouts. Look at these. Pure white, except for any carotenoids they sequester, other colorants they sequester in their diet. So favorite snakes that I would like to keep. Definitely super dwarf reticulated python. I think they're fantastic. I handled some down at Clint's Reptiles. Love those. I think a boa, probably a small boa like a Hog Island boa or something along those lines, I would really, really enjoy. And I could keep in my house, reasonably, hopefully, if I get space for it. I don't have space right now for any big snakes, but at some point, I would love to get into some of the smaller boas, like smaller localities of, boa constrictors, that style of, something along those lines. Pythons, there are so many pythons. Dumoril's boas is another boa that I would be really interested in keeping. Macklot's python, if I can find one that's fairly friendly. I'm really interested in those. So many. I really love rat snakes. I think like a cystic rat snake or something like that would be really cool. Those are just a few. Really, if there's so many snakes that I just absolutely love. I think a milk snake would be fantastic, a nice tricolor milk snake. That kind of thing. So we'll see. I hope to be able to keep a whole bunch of different snakes in the future. Ooh, false water cobra. I really had fun handling Clint's false water cobra, Shelby. So fun. I held that snake for a good, I don't know, half hour and just kind of zoned out. Not zoned out, but got in the zone of just zenned out. That's what I mean. You can't zone out when you're holding false water cobra. Bad choice of words on my part. I was paying attention, but I was blissing out. How's that? Does that sound better? That's what I meant. All right. Someone was asking me about my night goals the other day. I need to check and see how they're doing. Are these the grade Bs? Yeah, these are the grade Bs. I'm going to see what I've got in there because I'm constantly selling these off. People want these even though they're the grade Bs. It looks like I've got babies and whatnot in there. I don't have excellent hides there. They must have kind of degraded some of the hides that were in there. I'm going to need to look in there, but I see there's several. Looks a little dry though, to be honest. I need to get that a little wetter. It's been hard keeping up with the weather here. It's crazy. And it's dry. It rained a little bit yesterday, fortunately. Hasn't been raining much. Okay. Let's see. I'm getting behind on the chat, folks, but hopefully that answers the question, Mr. Marissa Morelia. It's a really good question, and I could keep going. Honestly, I love so many snakes, and there's just not time and space for all the snakes I want. But I hope to get more. I'm going to open up this one. These are those isopods that came in my latest video. I did the unboxing with the t-shirt giveaway thing, all that business. That video is going to come out soon, by the way, with the results of the giveaway. I haven't filmed it yet. I don't know who's going to win, but just going to take a look at these. These are kind of really interesting because look at that coloration. And I know that's going to come out a little fuzzy, but just I love that. The pied nature of these is very much like piebald scaber, in that some of them come out with really, really high expression. It's a very new culture, so there aren't very many in here out doing their thing. But I just love the expression. And I was talking to, I think it was Ashley Niebel, we were mentioning how it would be really cool to get, she said it would be cool to get an orange cross with these. You cross these with pennybacks or sunsets or something like that, orange vigor, and get some really, really cool looking ones. There are the Nazatum in here I'll be isolating from this colony as well, but I just haven't done it yet. I just wanted to let it go a little while, let them grow up a little bit and see what's going on in there first. Okay, let's see. Rachel of Pet Peds and Pods and I discovered there are two white powder isopod morphs, one that has white eyes and one with black eyes. If I remember right, the white eyes appear more yellow. Yes, that makes sense because the white eyes are a true albino, from what I understand, and the black-eyed ones are leucistic. And because they're leucistic, they do have pigment, but it's distributed differently, and the pigment in the eyes is usually distributed normally, and then it's the way embryos develop, it works that way. Let's see if we can find any pied paracae. There's one. Nice. There's another. This is the pied colony that has a lot of wild types in it, but I'm going to be isolating pieds from this slowly as time goes on, hopefully. I saw, when I was filming the video on these, I saw a baby that was pied, so it seems to be carrying through, at least in some cases. I don't see a baby that's pied right now, but there you go. Anyway, also the pigment, there seems to be something in the skin that is reflective in the leucistics, or leucistics if you want to say it that way, many people do. And because of that, it reflects a lot of the color, or reflects light, and so it looks more dazzlingly white rather than just kind of a lack of pigment. And let's see. So I'm fascinated by that. I isolated some leucistics from my party mix, and it didn't work. I collected probably 5 or 6 of them or something, and they grew up, but I didn't get any babies. And I heard someone else had a similar issue. So at least some of the versions of this gene may actually have some issues, fertility issues or viability issues or something. I don't know, but I don't think all of them do, because some people have been able to produce them. So I'm trying to figure out how to get that to work, because I would love to work with the leucistics. I love how they look. Absolutely love it. And Mantis God, how's your naturalistic cricket enclosure going? It's going well. The isopods are breeding there, but the crickets are also breeding there. Just have to make sure to keep the soil moist enough for the springtails and for the crickets, of course, to deposit their eggs for the eggs to develop. But as long as I'm doing that, they're breeding like crazy, still working really well. So very cool. Oh, fire skink eating the parakai. That's awesome. I kind of love that because I love the idea of a fire skink. So using that as an isopod cull, sort of, you know, a good way to put them where they go, and that would work. So sedums. Let's see. Most disappointing isopod you've ever bought? Thought it would be much cooler than it actually is, or overpriced? I don't know. I'm not going to say that rubber duckies are exactly disappointing because they're pretty cool, but you don't get to see much of them for a long time until their populations really grow. So they're pretty expensive for that, compared to a lot of other isopods that are just so much more active. So no, not disappointing, but not exactly maybe a little overhyped. I'm going to put it that way. A little overhyped. I think that's fair. Let's check on the flavomarginatus, shall we? My colony of flavomarginatus took a little bit of a dive a while ago, but it's coming back. And I'm not sure exactly what happened, but it's producing. We're getting babies and stuff. You can see babies of juveniles of different ages here. So So 503, you've got the a leucistic, black-eyed leucistic ball python. I don't know which one I like best, the blue-eyed leucistic or the black-eyed leucistic, but I like them both a lot. Leucistic snakes are just leucistic anything, just to be honest. Anyone ever keep legless lizards? I have not, but I think they're fascinating. Well, in the sense that, you know, snakes, taxonomically, cladistically speaking, phylogenetically speaking, however you want to call it, are lizards. But other than that, I haven't kept any legless lizards that are lizards but not snakes, put it that way, as Clint would say. Oh yeah, sedums, the flavomarginatus are pretty awesome. Okay. So Mantis God got a dubia enclosures, add wild caught pods. Yeah, I hope that goes well for you with the roaches and the pods. The choice specs, welcome. Anybody know what these are? I'll give you a better look at them, and you can tell me if you think you know what we're working with here. Look at the variety of colors, first of all. Tell me what you think we got here. Oh, that's much better. Let's see who's the first to get these. Okay, they are Armadillidium vulgare, that is true. But as far as the either morph or locality, what do we got here? Punta Canas? They're not Punta Canas, although that looks really close. Let's see, Officinalis? No. Ah, Frank the Tank, you got it. And then Ashley right afterwards. At least that's what it looks like on mine. It looks like Frank was first and then Ashley right after. This is Santa Lucia, a very cool locality of Armadillidium vulgare that is not a morph per se. It's a locality, meaning it comes from the island of Santa Lucia, and they naturally produce all of these different color varieties and more. This is just a sampling. This is a fairly small population, but you can see we've got like a red orange, we've got white with pied markings, we've got wild types, we've got all kinds of different markings. There's some that in here that come up just pure white, and then everything in between, high yellow, all kinds of things. So I think see there's a couple in here that look basically pure white. or very close to pure white. And Lotto Mix looks pretty similar to this, but this is just a wild locality, which I think is awesome. They'll just produce all kinds of crazy stuff. This comes from 2 different sources. I think David Farelli and bugeaters.co. Oh, see this? Look at the pattern on this one. It's subtle, but it looks pretty cool. I don't know if you can see that, hopefully. It's pretty neat. I like it. And these get, I haven't seen these get so particularly huge. The biggest Vulgare morph that I know of is Magic Potion, the true Magic Potion, the American line. Yeah, let's look at my Punta Cana to compare. I'm going to show you my Punta Cana high contrast, which has been line bred for high contrast, produced by Medieval Serpents, or Under a Mossy Log if you follow him on Instagram. Tanner Steinbrook, I believe is his last name. Is it Steinbrook or Steinbrook? I get it confused. So these are the high contrast Punta Canas. And you see that we've got some variety here too. I don't see as many whites in here, but I see more with the kind of metallic stripes in here. I do see oranges, see the darks. So this is the Punta Cana high contrast. Also very cool. My normal Punta Cana colony doesn't throw as many different colors as this one does, but it's still got a decent amount of variety. It's mostly the wild types and the metallics and the oranges is what I get in there. But I think I'm going to use these high contrast ones to kind of boost up the variety in my normal Punta Canas. So Kevin, I only have problems with the egg crate if they get really, really wet. And I try not to keep them too close to the moist area, and it seems to be okay. If they get really, really wet, though, I do have issues. Oh, Tanner has fantastic pictures on Instagram. If you don't follow him, you should. Get your Isopod macro fix. And he does roaches and other things too. So, Aqua Waifu, has anyone ever kept Venezilo arizonicus? I had one show up in my blue death fainting beetle enclosure, but other than that, I've not kept them. But I do have Venezilo parvis. Should we see if we can see anything there going on? So, Terralo, you've isolated Porcelia skipper whiteout from a colony of wilds. Awesome. This is very cool. Let's see. I'm going to see if I can reach my Venezilo parvis. Okay. I don't know if it's going to work. I'm going to give it a shot, though. Have to move things. Venezilo parvis. Yes. There they are. These are going to be hard to see. They're tiny. And these are Venezilo parvis Dalmatian, not the wild types. Let's see. You know, I bet Peter at Bugs in Cyberspace and Jesse too, both of them, would be in a position to collect Venezilo parvis at some point. Also, I think Kyle at Roach Crossing is working with a colony, or has been working, or has worked with a colony of them. Apparently they do best fairly arid conditions with and warm conditions. Let's see, how are we doing here? Venezilo parvis are pretty secretive, and you have to be careful not to damage them when you're digging. But I see one right there. Looks like a young one. They take forever to come up. But they're all over in the substrate. Okay, I know I'm missing questions, even questions that I thought of and were going to answer but haven't. So Kevin, question about venomous snakes. I've never worked in any close capacity with venomous snakes beyond, the snakes that are not anywhere near medically significant, with the possible exception of just meeting the false water cobra that Clint has in his reptile room. I did meet that and handled that snake. That's probably the closest I've ever come. When I was in the zoo, I wasn't actually a zookeeper. I worked in the education department, so I handled a lot of animals and worked with a lot of animals, but I wasn't a keeper. Occasionally I did feed them and things like that, helped out with that stuff. But my primary job was not a keeper. I was in the education department. So outreach and presentations and animal encounters, that kind of thing is what I was working on. Okay, well, that was a little bit underwhelming. I saw one. Well, that's not exciting, is it? I do want to show you something that I hope never happens to you. It happened to me. Yeah, there's not a whole lot to look at in here, I guess. I had my Atlantosha colony was colonized by my Silisticus convexus, just my wild types. And now the colony doesn't look like a whole lot. So, no fun. But look at this. This is fun. I like this. So Theropod Hunter would be a great Isopod springtail substitute cleanup crew for an arid enclosure. Well, it depends on how arid it gets. But if it's too arid for isopods and it's something that will be compatible with them, I would suggest springtails. Did I say springtails? I did. I would suggest superworms. Superworms can be fantastic cleanup crew. They like it a little bit damp, but they can do fine if there are dry spells, as long as there's some humidity that they get under the soil or the substrate. And I would say that's a really good option if it's too dry for isopods. I keep those with my leopard gecko, and they do great. I'm fixing some alarms that are going off. And there are arid springtails, and there are isopods that can do well in fairly arid setups. So Sandy went to a zoo. There was a rattlesnake enclosed with a copperhead. That normal? I've heard of it happening. I myself have no experience dealing with that sort of thing, but I've heard about it. These are, of course, my Silisticus convexus Ukraine pied. One of the coolest pied expressions I've seen, because many of them almost look like they have zebra stripes, but you get individuals that are really low expression, like that one that just ran through. Some that are really high expression, and they're pretty fantastic. So underrated. Not sure why they're more common, because not only are they beautiful, they're really great cleanup crew isopods. Very, very versatile. As I've mentioned in some of my videos, they will thrive in almost any setup as long as it's not completely dry. They'll do well with low ventilation, high ventilation, relatively low humidity, relatively high, whatever. So, yeah, very cool. So sedums, ooh, well, dairy cows are awesome. Breed like crazy. These are awesome. Also, Oreo crumbles are another good pied isopod to look at. So 503 have some of those black desert springtails. That's cool. I've heard of those. I'm not sure which species though they are yet. But from what I've heard, they're pretty awesome. Let's see. Just want to see how my yellow zebras are doing, and then I'm gonna open it up to you all if you have any particular requests that I can honor. If I'm in a position to do so reasonably, then I will do that. And I'm going to answer some Patreon questions too. There's a yellow zebra. She doesn't look very yellow in this particular picture or video, though. I haven't even seen a rattlesnake yet this year. I usually, most years see them, usually in May and September, but in May I didn't see a single one this year. Going down to southern Utah soon and hope to see some perhaps while I'm there. Oh, there's some more zebras. That one's really yellow. It's more spotted than striped, but it's very, very yellow. We got there. That one's kind of yellow too, but that one's really yellow. The Oreo crumbles are doing great. Excellent. Congrats on the Gestroy breeding. Warren, it shouldn't be long before you see little babies. Oh, 503. Yeah, some of the cresties will really go after even small isopods, and some of them seem to completely ignore them. You never know what you're going to get, really. Just depends on the gecko to a large extent, I think. Let's see. Gonna take a peek at the rubber duckies. You're the one. For $20 I just got one. Rubber duckies, are we really that fond of you? Here we go. Let's take a look at the rubber duckies. Yeah, Gestroy has got to be my favorite Armadillidium, hands down. There's a bunch of them right there, hiding. They are pretty cool, pretty cute little things though. Look at that face. Look at that face. Oh yeah, they definitely get the tarantula clip enclosure. Sedums, I usually give my isopods distilled or purified. Distilled if I'm misting so that I don't leave marks, and just purified, like carbon filtered if I'm not. Carbon filtered is better than distilled all the time because it has some minerals in it, and the distilled doesn't have any, basically. Isobuddies does have some very knowledgeable people, and it's a great place to hang out. If any of you are not subscribed to Isobuddies, mods, can you put the link in the chat? One of the mods here to Isobuddies, and go ahead and if you haven't subscribed to Isobuddies, just do it. It's worth it. He doesn't talk just about isopods. He interviews people from all over, different aspects of hobbies, reptiles. He just did one on tegus, but he does isopods too, of course. Ants, snakes, all different kinds of things. It's fun. Same kind of things that I'm into. So that's probably why I'm subscribed. And thank you, Frank, for putting that there. So, oh, Fabian, we should look at your, we should look at my granulatum, right? Oh, JH, yeah, I can actually do Kermit, at least when I'm warmed up. Let's see. I'm not really warmed up yet, but we'll try it. Hi-ho, Kermit the Frog here with another fast-breaking news story. Here we go. Let me see if I can get the granulatum out. Full disclosure, if I'm warmed up, I can do a Kermit better. But I wasn't warmed up. But, not bad for not warming up. What can I say? Also, Also, one problem is that I originally trained on Jim Henson's version of Kermit, and now they have Steve Whitmire doing Kermit. So I kind of conflicted about which one to do because they're quite different. Oh, yep, Lola J. Yep, that can be a ridovirus, which is scary stuff. So sedums, my soil mix. Look at all these granulatiums. Pretty cool isopods, I must say. Let's see. Frank the Tank say I'm more popular than Elmo and Dora the Explorer. In Kermit's voice, let's see. Can I do that? I'm more popular than Elmo and Dora the Explorer. Oh, Kevin, yeah. There's far too many people of that sort who don't like snakes and think the only good snake is a dead snake. Everywhere, it seems. Yep, I think one cool thing, I'm actually, just as a little spoiler alert, I have a video coming out on this species soon that I'm working on. So it's not out yet. I'm not sure exactly when it's going to come out, but fairly soon. The next couple of weeks, most likely. Pretty cool species. By the way, particular granule. Braden at Critters and More. He sent me these. I had a colony of granulatum for quite a while when I first started out with isopods, and they didn't do, they bred and stuff, but they didn't do all that great and eventually crashed. But I didn't know what I know about isopods now, and so I'm not worried that these will crash really. But those, my original colony did. Aftech, how can you convince a friend that springtails are not enough? Well, springtails are great in a bioactive cleanup crew, but they just don't have the power to mow through stuff like isopods do. You're just not going to get the bulk of the sheer volume that they can process. Isopods can process far more. 503. To my knowledge, in the United States, none of the morphs have gotten here, but that's one of the cool things about my video. I'm going to be showing you, with some international cooperation in terms of photos, some morphs of egg granulatum. So kind of neat that they exist. I don't know of any that have reached the US. An isopod puppet show with character voices. I just need an isopod puppet. I actually do... I used to do semi-professional puppetry, and I have a big collection of, performance quality puppets. I don't do it as often anymore, just because I'm too busy. And the troupe I used to do it with, we moved kind of far away from each other and whatnot, and so we don't really do that anymore. But occasionally I'll do a little performance of some type, and it's fun. So maybe I should do something like that. And Lola J, that's true. Isopods are very definitely in the crustacean clade, not insects at all. Just a terrestrial crustacean, which I think makes them extra cool. What do we got under here? Oh, yeah. I just grabbed the Oniscus ocellus Mardi Gras to see how they're doing. Tons of springtails in there. Oh, Ashley, you've seen that video that I did forever ago with the puppets and the isopods? That's pretty awesome. Nature's Janitors, I think we called it. Isopods Nature's Janitors. It was a fun channel. We never really did a whole lot with it. No, there's a little baby one. This is a fairly new colony. I've had it, I don't know, maybe 6 months or so. Oh, got a spider in there. That's got to go, because the spiders will eat the baby isopod sometimes. There. Removed it. How are we doing? That's a little dry in there too. The moss isn't dry, but they kind of like it pretty moist and cool, so keep it going. Oh, cool. Bus spark openings. You got, the isopods are having babies, the ones you got for me. That's so cool. Glad to hear that they're doing well for you. Fantastic. You mind if I show you what maybe my favorite small isopod? Like, this is basically a dwarf or a semi-dwarf isopod. I'm going to show you this. So I've never kept Pumascorum. Never. I don't think they have them in my state. I think it might be too dry here, not sure. I don't think I've seen them. Gummy cats. Did you have to learn not to be squeamish around insects, or have you always gotten along with them? Always! I brought a pocket full of worms home when I was 18 months old and scared my mom. See, this is one of my favorite small isopods. Who can name it? Oop, 503 got it. I think maybe you put that there before I even showed you this. You knew what it was. There's a few more. Oh, I'm almost pinching one. Got to be careful there. Did I squish one? Or is that a skin? Oh, it's just a skin, I think. Okay, that's good. Scared me to death. Thought I squished one for a minute. Yeah, these are doing pretty well for me. This is a new culture too. Had it for about 6 months. But they're breeding okay. They're doing all right. I'm looking forward to getting a big old colony of these. So someone just asked a question about springtails. Okay, the springtails in pretty much all of my isopod colonies is the species that is at least known in the hobby as Sinella curviceta. Whether that's the actual species or not is kind of up for debate, but that is what we're going with. It is the most adaptable springtail in terms of handling different humidity levels and stuff, so it can go all over the enclosure in all parts of the humidity gradient, which I love. And very, very hardy. They'll tend to colonize isopod colonies even if you don't put them in half the time. So they're awesome. Mini Marbles, Ashley, awesome name for them. And by the way, Ashley, I got your message. I think I answered it, but we need to talk about a time. We totally need to talk about a time. I want to do it. And actually this summer is a good time for me to do that because I have a little bit more flexibility. So if you want to chat about that, let's figure out a time that we can get that project underway that we were talking about. So, and Kenny, these are isopods, often known as roly-polies. And Frank the Tank got these, zingers. These are Armadillidium gestroi. And, oh, looks like 503 got it too. Yep, these have been fantastic. I don't know how many babies you've seen. There's quite a few babies in here. Down in the substrate, they're all over the place. If you can see those. It's not focusing very well on the substrate, but there's a lot of little babies in there. These are from Brandy at Ractastic Racks. She was kind enough just to send me some. One of my, this species is probably my favorite, Armadillidium, and zingers are fantastic. They don't have the colors that the wild type gestroi does, but somehow it doesn't matter. They just look awesome anyway. I love it. Fascinated by them, absolutely. Okay, Ashley, great. We'll get going on that. How often would you feed a starter colony? Well, one thing to think about is that when you feed a starter colony, you're actually giving them feeding is almost... If they have a lot of decomposing leaves and wood and fermented wood and whatnot, they're not going to need a lot of more food, and you might not need to feed the colony for a month or two or more, depending on how many you start with and the size of it and whatnot. But you can start out by feeding them small quantities, just a little tiny pinch of food. If you put it on something like, I like to use these seashells lately, or a little tray, a feeding tray. But this works as a feeding tray and is pretty cheap. Just a scallop shell. Put a tiny little pinch, just like the match head size on there, and see if it's gone within 24 hours. If it is, feed again. If it's not, leave it there. If it molds, get rid of it. And you for a while, and you should kind of dial into what's going on in your colony. Let's take a look at my friends here. This is my Witch's Brew colony. Loving these. I got them when they were pretty young a while ago, back in October, I want to say. And it took them for a while for them to grow up, but then when they did, they started reproducing, and now I've got babies, several different cohorts of babies. Oh, Wally's here. Excellent. Wally with Supreme Geckos. And nope, unfortunately don't have a Canadian retail situation set up yet. So sedums with a fish tank with a window screen would work well for dairy cows. If you're able to keep up with the moisture that they require, then yes, it can work. Average lifespan of an isopod luke. Well, it depends on the species. Many of them can go up to 2 or 3 years or so. They don't all make it that way. You know, some of them will die within 6 months to a year. Others might last up to 3 years. I'm just going to show you the longest lived species of isopod in the hobby, though, right here, because you asked. And then I need to hit all my Patreon questions, because I haven't gotten there yet. It's ridiculous. I always think I'm going to do it, and then I don't. These are Armadillo officinalis, fairly large isopod. The only isopod that can stridulate. It rubs structures together to make a noise. It also has a distinctive shape when it congelates, when it rolls up. It's not exactly a round ball. It's sort of an ovoid, eggy sort of shape, as you can see. Not quite eggy, but it's closest I can come to giving it an actual shape. But anyway, these can live 9 years, each individual, which is an unusual thing for terrestrial isopods to do. Yeah. So now I'm going to hit some Patreon questions while we watch these officinalis officiate, or at least crawl around. So Badger had a question that he posted a couple weeks ago, and that was, said, what is the nutritional difference between leaves that have fallen off a tree naturally versus leaves that have been plucked off? And I would say that I'm not a biochemist, but I know some of this and what's going on. I read an article that talked about how isopods will avoid eating walnut leaves until after they have dried and fallen off the tree because some of the toxins degrade. So we can keep in mind that in some cases you could be picking leaves, if you were to pick green leaves off a tree and feed them to your isopods, which is not true of all trees, but some trees, you could be inadvertently presenting them with toxins that they're not capable of dealing with. So there's that. Another thing I've discovered in my reading is that when I think most of you from high school biology or even before that may remember that we have, the chlorophylls begin to die down in the fall, and that's why the leaves stop turning. That's why the leaves often stop being green, because you can start seeing the carotenoids and the anthocyanins, which color the leaves, that are there all the time, but they're just sort of overwhelmed visually by the chlorophylls, right? And hold on just a second, folks. I'm going to put something else up there. What am I going to put? I'm going to put these Orange Dalmatians. Orange Dalmatian vulgaris up because I like them. Look at all those babies. Anyway, so the anthocyanins tend to be, there's a lot more anthocyanins in proportionately as opposed to chlorophylls than in fresh leaves, in dry leaves. Also, the carotenoids tend to start degrading in fallen leaves, but they don't degrade very quickly, and so you'll have a lot of carotenoids still in the fallen leaves. Sugar levels appear to go up in fallen leaves, so that's a thing. And because the sugars go up, that may be part of the reason why fallen leaves are so much better, because really what the isopods are eating when they eat the fallen leaves is not so much what's in the leaves themselves, but the bacteria that grow on the leaves, and they get much of the nutrition from the bacteria that they eat. And so the sugars in those leaves may help to promote bacterial growth, which makes them good for isopods as they decompose. Yeah, so it's better to give them, you can give them dry leaves and let them rot, but it's going to take some time. If you can give them leaves that are already decomposing, that's actually ideal. You just have to make sure that they're not contaminated with centipedes or something like that, because they are not going to get a lot out of leaves that are dry. But at the same time, if you put dry leaves in an enclosure that's moist, it's not going to be that long before they start decomposing. So, you know, you can do it either way, but they can starve if there's just dry leaves in their enclosure and there's nothing decomposing. So hopefully that helps. Oh, I like it, Random Tea, avocado shape. Whoop, just dropped one. Now this particular strain is a cross between the American Line True Magic Potion and the Orange Dalmatian. I think this strain that I have has some that are just the normals too. So they have American Line Magic Potion in them, and not all of them have the rusty spots. Some of them just have the dark spots, is what I mean. So just bugs. I generally don't have mold problems in my enclosures, because what I try to do is start out with some live bioactive soil substrate, whatever you want to call it, lots of springtails, and I introduce some substrate from an established culture. So that tends to decrease any issues with mold, because the substrate is going to be colonized by all sorts of things, including probably molds, but also a lot of beneficial bacteria and beneficial fungi that don't cause mold. And the springtails have a good foothold, and so they're going to help control that mold. So those are some of the things I do to help prevent mold from happening. I'm not that I'm going to say it never happens. But that tends to really curtail issues. And also, I try to feed very sparingly at first in the colony, and that helps as well. And 503, is flower pot fungus the yellow mushroom stuff, or is it that white granular stuff? Because I've seen both of them. It's been a while since I've seen either, but which one is it? Because I get confused about which one is which. Ventilation does help too, against mold, definitely. Cross ventilation. And I think Mark Holder, that if you boil the leaves, I think it removes tannins. It probably removes lots of good things. Certainly kills any enzymes that were in the leaves. It doesn't necessarily make the leaves inhospitable to bacteria though. So they could still be... Okay, are we back in the stream? I think so. I hope so. Okay, we're back in. Sorry, the stream kind of got fried for a second. I hope nobody missed anything. Okay, so Fanny Victoria says, been feeding dairy cows to my African bullfrogs to keep the numbers down, and the frogs seem to love it. I'm guessing they get some good amount of calcium from the dairy cows. Yeah. Warren McMonagle mentioned that in his book, Isopod Zoology, and he mentioned that one thing that isopods probably have more bioavailable calcium than a lot of species. So, they have more bioavailable calcium than a lot of sources of it. So if we put like powdered calcium on something, or we give them an isopod, probably per unit volume of calcium, they're probably getting more of the calcium in their actually pods. That's what his supposition was. So, okay. So Truffle Pig 42 had a question as well. Said, I'm experimenting with some stuff in my established bioactive enclosures, such as different polyphores and other fungi, lichens, liverworts, and such. Have you any experience working with these? Do Do you know anyone else who is dabbling in some less common fauna or flora as a part of their bioactive setups? Who might I be able to connect with? There's a lot of people who do that. Heather Jensen's a viewer who plays with some of that stuff in bioactive enclosures. Let's see. Dan Vivas with Mitten Exotics does some fun stuff with that. I'm trying to think who else. Who else does stuff like that? Did anybody else have other ideas about people who do that? But those are a couple I can think of. Dan Vivas with Mitten Exotics and Heather Jensen. Who else? You know what's funny? My wife actually likes the smell of the cooking leaves, so I don't have to worry about it. Some people like it, some people don't. Probably depends on what kinds of leaves you have too. I think the leaves that we have, we're lucky, they actually smell pretty good. Oh, Permian Exotics. That's a good call there, Sandy. Yep, another good resource for that kind of setup. I've grown liverworts, some of them completely aquatically. I love liverworts actually. Riccia fluitans and let's see, what used to be called Pellia, but I think they changed the name. But I used to grow a lot of that stuff. Liverworts are pretty cool. And I think I've grown some in my vivariums too, like with my dart frogs and stuff. Oh, is Den cut back? That's too bad. If he's not doing as much of that. He might still be a good resource. I'm not sure if he's still active enough and available enough, but it'd be cool if he were. So just bugs, mixing dairy cows with orange Porcelia laevis. Correct your spelling. Okay, well you don't need the I after the C in Porcelio. Everything else looks okay. Let's see. And they created an orange cream color. Is that regular? Is that a morph already? Okay, well what I need to ask you is if the isopods that they produced, are they kind of an orange cream color with black marks? If so, what you got going is not a cross. It is just sequestered carotenoids. In other words, they collect that color in their tissues, and it looks kind of orangey, but that's not what's going on. It's not a cross, if that's what you got going on. If what you have, on the other hand, is going on is you have white Porcelia laevis with orange markings and no black markings, then you got something cool going on. So let me know which one it is. So we're going to look at one more isopod, I think, and so just bugs, you have white with orange, okay? Can you message me about that? Because I would love to see the photos of this. And Cement Airbag, welcome back. So I want to see the white with orange. Can you send me a picture on Instagram or Facebook Messenger, or just go to aquarimax.com, use the contact page, message me there, and you won't be able to send a picture if you do use the aquarimax.com message page for the first message, but if I reply to you, then you can reply back with an attachment image. But if you go to Instagram, Aquarimax Pets, or you go to Facebook Messenger, Aquarimax Pets, you can just message me directly there too. Would love to see the pictures, see what you got going on. And April Gosnell, welcome. So if you want to see what I have available, you can just go to aquarimax.com price list, or you can go to isopodsrus.com, either one. They'll bring you to the same place, and I will I have a price list of what I've got available, and you can always ask and see what else I have too, but because I do have some things that are not on that list yet that I do have, and I will be updating that soon in time for fall sales, because I'm doing kind of light sales right now because it's summer and hot. And so I do sell, but I highly encourage express, and it's much safer, so fewer people buy in this time of year. So that's what's going on there. But you can check it out there, isopodsrs.com or aquarimaxpets.com, and then go to my price list. And let's see. What leaves are safe recommended for isopods? You can collect fawn leaves. You can use pecan leaves. I use them. I have pecan trees, 2 of them in my yard, and I use them. I sanitize them and feed them. So yeah, the thing about the park is you need to know whether or not there are pesticides used there. And if there are pesticides used there, you know, you got issues with that. But otherwise, you'd be okay. Well, I think I have a couple more questions. One more isopod to look at. Oh, and actually, what's going on here? I meant to say something, but this is my experiment, microvarium. So that Oreo was actually there on purpose. I put 1 of each species in here, and as you can see, the zebras overtook the colony. There was 1 Armadillidium nasatum, 1 Oreo crumble, 1 Porcellio laevis milkback, 1 dairy cow, 1 Porcellio, what was the other one? There's the milkback, see right there. 1 Porcellio ornatus nord. There was 1 of everything, 1 Armadillidium klugi montenegro. And even though there was one zebra, and it was no bigger than that one, probably smaller than that one right there, look what we got going on. Tons of zebras, and almost nothing else. The only other ones that survived were the milkback and the Oreo crumble in that experimental enclosure. Now, of course, this is not my only zebra enclosure. I've got another enclosure with thousands, another couple with hundreds and whatever, and some with small zebras, small quantities of zebra like my yellows. But that's what this tank is. So, oh yeah, we should compare notes, definitely, Ashley. So that's what we got going on. I'm going to show you these guys before I go. I need to go, but this has been a good stream. So for participating, we're just going to take a look at my Werneri, my orange Werneri, which are pretty cool. Kind of like klugi, but more rows of white spots. And this has an orange morph. There is an orange morph of klugi montenegro too, but I don't have that one. So, all right, Aftech sent $5. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. That is fantastic. And we'll see y'all later. Thank you so much for joining in. And be sure to catch my video on Friday. Pretty soon I'll also have some herping in the wild videos coming out, hopefully. So hopefully you'll enjoy those as well. And I must go, so see you all later.